Good morning, eighth grade. How are you this morning? Been a while since we've seen each other, and I miss you. Hope you all are doing well. We are going to start today on chapter 20, Central and Western Africa. You should have done some of the reading yesterday, but make sure you watch the video all the way to the end because I'm going to have some special things on there for you to help you as you take your quiz. Okay? Central and Western Africa is what we're looking at. You have maps that have been uploaded for you to practice with. You also have the notes as a bunch on Google Classroom where you can get to them. Okay, so what we're looking at here is land right around Central Africa, right around on the top and bottom of the equator. So jungles and savannas dominate this landscape because it's just so close to the equator. And of course, that is going to dictate the lifestyle of the 20 nations we're going to look at here around the equator. This is going to be an interesting chapter for us. We have two special guests, if we can work them out, from our own ranks. Kosi's mom is going to tell us about her life in Nigeria, and Golda's mom and dad are going to tell us about their life in Togo. So I will give you more details about those as I know them, but I'm really, really excited about having them as guests in our classroom and being able to learn about what life is like on the ground in these countries. These are probably not something that most of us are ever going to visit, so the ability to talk to them will be very special. All right, so as I said, the equator runs right through the center of this region and pretty much dictates what can happen here. In Africa, and we've talked about this way, way back when we started the geography classes, we talked about the village as an important element and how family is important. In America, we tend to be very individualistic. We are, that rugged individualism, we can do it all. Whereas in parts of the Far East, like China, Japan, the family and the extended family is very, very important. And people would do things that they wouldn't do for, as a general rule, but they would do them for their extended family because that extended family is very important to them. In Africa, it is very similar, only it's not just the extended family, it's the whole village. Now, a village typically is all family. They're all related somehow. Polygamy is common because having more than one wife is seen as a sign of wealth. So it would be common for a man to have 2 or 3 or more wives, and then all of those children, they're all related, of course. So the village is just a very, very important part of African life. Several villages that would all be descended from one common ancestor would form a clan, and then several clans would form a tribe. And a tribe is very important. We're going to talk about that as we get into some of these countries. 2 or more clans would form a tribe. Okay? I'm sorry I'm talking fast. I know I do it every time, but 15 minutes is my limit, so I've got to get it all in there. You can slow it down and rewatch it if you need to. All right. A strong tribal chief is the person he would unite several villages, and then each village would have a headman who would be the administrator of that village. That's typically their system of government. But what is tribalism? We need to know what that is. Tribalism is that strong identification with a particular tribe, and these tribes will speak the same language or even dialect. Now, one of the facts in your book was that 1/3 of the world's people live in Africa. 1/3 of the world's languages are also in Africa. There's a lot of languages in Africa. And tribalism and the way they have to live because of the geography of the region leads to more languages, because when you isolate a group of people, they will quickly develop their own language. I think probably you've seen some of this within your siblings. that you have certain terms that mean something to your family. And, maybe that's have even come up over the last few weeks as you've been isolated from other people. But that develops into tribalism in Africa. Okay, let's talk about initiation rites. In Africa, at a certain age, and that could be somewhere between 13 and 20, children become an adult. And in order to become an adult, you have to go through initiation rites. Normally, it's a multi-step process, similar to a Jewish bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah for the girls. Hispanic communities also have this, where they have, the quinceañera, that's what it's called, for young ladies. So initiation rites are kind of the African way, the Central African way of doing that. It might involve hunts or dances, ceremonies, masks, different things like that. But that initiates a teenager into adulthood. Some of you ready for that, I'm sure, but you got a few more years. All right, so Central Africa, let's talk about what is unique about Central Africa. It's very dense jungles there. There are some savannas, as you see in this picture, but for the most part, a lot of it is dense jungle, like rainforest. Wild beasts, of course, roam freely. There are rough waters, and we're going to talk about that as we get into the Congo Basin. But disease is a really bad problem here in Africa, like yellow fever. The tsetse fly spreads African sleeping sickness, which can kill you if you don't get care right away. It's a horrible thing. Yellow fever is spread by mosquitoes. Malaria is spread by mosquitoes. So it's just, I was reading in your book, let me see, was it in here? It was somewhere about how do we combat against these diseases. And one of the things they can do is they can spray DDT, which is a chemical, to try to kill those mosquitoes. But it's just really been a hard thing to deal with. And you see that there, the mosquito spreads malaria. Okay. Another thing that dominates in Central Africa is the concept of animism. We talked about animism when we talked back in Georgia history about Native Americans, because animism is common among Native Americans as well. It's the belief that everything, whether it be a rock or a tree or a leaf or whatever, everything has a spirit, and that these spirits exercise control over the world. This is just a vital part of African religion, and because of that, it is very, very difficult to take the gospel there. Those who take the gospel have to be extremely patient with people who consistently revert back to animism. It's really hard to shake that when it's part of your traditional belief. Okay, here's a map of the countries we're looking at. Central Africa, Cameroon, Gabon, Republic of the Congo, and Democratic Republic of the Congo. When I took African history years ago, and I don't want to say how long ago, but it was a long time ago, Democratic Republic of the Congo was actually named Zaire, and you see that name under there in parentheses, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. It's part of its history. All right, so the Congo River is the great river of Central Africa. You do need to know that. It drains a lot of area, and it is a very big river. It's like the 5th largest river in the world, which, you would think, well, big deal. But its volume of water is enormous. It sends out more, it's like 8 miles wide in some places. It's a huge river as far as width goes. So it sends out probably, I think your book said 1 million gallons, 1 million square cubic meters of water per second. It's just an enormous, 1 million cubic feet of water into the Atlantic every second. It is enormous volume. The river runs so quickly that into the ocean that it doesn't have time to collect sediment and form a delta. So there were some more pictures of rainforest here. We're going to look first at the Central African Republic. Central African Republic. It is the only landlocked country here in this area. Only 3% of the land in the Central African Republic is arable or farmable. 3%. But 50% of the people who live in the Central African Republic are farmers. They are threatened with both the extremes of dust storms or floods. It's just a very, very poor country and very hard to make a living there. But look at that sweet face. Isn't he cute? Okay. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is the next country we're going to look at. I'm going to make sure I didn't want to say anything else. Okay. It's the third largest country on the continent. The largest sub-Saharan one, below the Sahara. The Democratic Republic received its independence from Belgium in 1960. At one point in history, it was the personal property of King Leopold II of Belgium. He considered it his personal property, and he mistreated hundreds of the citizens there. He treated them as if they belonged to him. When that was discovered in the late 1800s, I believe it was, to early 1900s, in 1908, Belgium took over, the government of Belgium took over control of the Congo. And that's when Belgium gave the Congo its freedom, Mobutu Sese Seko took over control. He renamed the country Zaire. Kinshasa is the capital. He renamed the country Zaire. He took over all the businesses that were owned by Europeans, and he tried to make it a completely African country. But he was unsuccessful in achieving stability in the government. So in 2013, the UN sent in forces to disarm the rebel groups and hopefully establish a solid government in the country. The country itself has great mineral wealth, but it has poor leadership and frequent wars that have hindered its development. Okay. There are two Congos. There's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which was, of course, a Belgian colony owned by Belgium, given its freedom from Belgium. And then there's the Republic of the Congo, which is on the other side of the Congo River. And it used to be the property of France, but France gave it its independence. I'm not sure that they gave it very willingly, though. The capital is Brazzaville. The Congo River and its northern tributary, the Ubangi River, form the eastern border of this country. And this is a country that is torn by tribalism, as is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In the Democratic Republic, there are over 200 tribes that function there in the colony. The Bantu and the Pygmy are the most popular in the Republic of the Congo. Okay, and that's all. That's all we're going to do today. Your interesting fact of the day is that I'm trying to think of which one I want to use, and I got little time. Okay, in the average chocolate bar, there are reportedly 8 insect legs in the chocolate bar. Remember that. Use it on your quiz, okay? Remember, you can use handwritten notes on your quiz. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you soon.